the shadowed lands of the Hyborian Age, where empires clash and sorcery simmers beneath the surface of diplomacy, a storm brews in a world of intrigue, conquest, and unpredictable heroism. As rulers of mighty kingdoms, Aquilonia, Turan, Hyperborea, or Stygia, you'll marshal armies, weave alliances, and manipulate fate itself to dominate the realm. But amid your grand design strides, Conan the Cimmerian, a force of chaos and legend whose path may bolster your ambitions or shatter them. The dice are cast, the adventure begins, and only the bold will carve their name into the annals of this savage age. This is Age of Conan, the strategy board game.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club. My name is Keith, and tonight we're going to examine the board game Age of Conan, the strategy board game. Now this game was designed by Roberto Di Meglio, Marco Meggi, and Francesco Nepitello, the same designers that brought us War of the Ring. Now this game kind of received mixed reviews upon its release. And subsequent to its original release, an expansion was also made available by Ares Games, and it's called Adventures in Hyboria. Now this expansion was released to address some of the issues that many of the players of Age of Conan had. They felt that there wasn't enough action in the Conan character in the base game. And this expansion, with some extra cards and some new mechanisms, is meant to address that situation. So we'll see if that's true. Now, in addition to previewing the base game and the expansion, we're also going to take a look at a solo system that I downloaded from BGG. And it's called Age of Conan Automatic Kingdom Rules. That was developed by a user named Nappy Player. And we're going to see how this solo system works with the base game and the expansion. Now, the designer for this automatic kingdom did not include any rules for the expansion. So what I've done is I've basically built upon the system that he created, and I've created a few extra rules that will help us incorporate the expansion into the solo game. I've carefully looked over these solo rules, and they seem to be a very, very good fit for this game system. They have simple mechanisms, but it looks like it does a good job on controlling these automatic kingdoms. In tonight's game, I'm going to be controlling the kingdom of Stygia. Aquilonia, Hyperborea, and Turan will be controlled by the automatic kingdom rules. On this sheet are my additions to the automatic kingdom solitaire system, and these rules deal with the expansion. It'll cover actions of spies, revised Conan rules, and then how the AI will be using champions and legendary items along with sieges. Now the beauty of this solo system is that it uses the existing rules as written completely. Not only for the base game, but for the expansion. And that's something that I always insist upon, at least to the best of my ability, when I'm designing a solo system for a game. So that's what kind of led me to this solo system that we're going to be trying out. I like systems that preserve the rules as written as much as possible. Now in this game, the object of the game is to acquire the most empire points at the conclusion of the game. The game is broken down into 3 ages. We're going to have an adventure deck placed at the top of the board. It's going to consist of 4 adventure cards. After 4 adventure cards are completed, that will be an end of the first age. We'll do that again in the second age and once again in the third age. At the completion of that third age, we will tally up the points and see who has the most empire points and therefore will win the game. The game can end short of that third age if one of the players attempts to crown Conan king of the empire. Now this is one change from the rules as written. In this solo system, solitaire players will never attempt to crown Conan. We can try that if we choose as the human player, but the AI system will not attempt to do that. And there's a risk in doing that. If you attempt to crown Conan and it fails, he pretty much lops your head off and you are eliminated from the game. So it is a big risk. We're going to go through the setup procedure for the game, and that will also include the expansion. And as we perform the setup, I'll introduce the viewers to the different components. We begin the setup by placing the game board in the center of the table, along with the Conan reference board placed at the bottom half of the game board. And this is the Conan reference board that came with the expansion. We begin by placing the mood wheel marker on the Conan the Warrior mood wheel. We place that in the lowest value listed, in this case +1. Then we place the experience marker on the first slot of the track. The mood wheels will chart Conan's kind of precarious moods as the game progresses. He starts as Conan the Warrior. After he accumulates victory points, eventually he will transform into Conan the Mercenary, and his capabilities will change along with his potential for large mood swings. Eventually he will be promoted to Conan the General, and as he progresses, his mood tends to be more temperamental. Then we place the Conan dice in each of the corresponding locations on the mood areas of the board. When Conan is activated, he'll be using that die for that segment of his progression. He starts out as Conan the Warrior. Conan is rated in 3 areas: in strength, agility, and in cunning. Each player now will receive their kingdom's bidding tokens, army units, emissaries, 3 spies, and 3 gold. So let's take care of that. We place the prisoner tiles into a draw cup and we place them off to the side of the board. They'll be used later in the game. The kingdoms of Aquilonia and Turan will receive a total of 5 army units and 4 emissaries in their home provinces. So we've placed 5 armies and 4 emissaries in both Aquilonia and in Turan. Kingdoms of Stygia and Hyboria will receive 4 armies and 4 emissaries, but they'll also receive 2 sorcery tokens as well. And so both Stygia and Hyboria will begin with 4 armies and 4 emissaries. They also will begin with the 2 sorcery tokens. We'll place those sorcery tokens near their draw decks. Sorcery tokens allow a player to re-roll all of their dice during a contest. Next, we're going to replace the adventure deck from the expansion for the adventure deck from the base game. This deck has a few extra cards involved in it, and they've changed kind of the format by which the cards will operate. Makes it a little clearer. We place those in the adventure deck area at the top of the board. Then we take all of our adventure tokens and we mix them together. And this will be including the adventure tokens from the base game along with the expansion adventure tokens. I'm going to end up, I put these in a bowl to mix them up, but I'm probably going to place them in a draw bag, and that will keep them a little bit more concealed. Adventure tokens come in a total of 5 varieties now, including the expansion. Adventure tokens come in 5 varieties. We have the 3 from the base game and 2 different varieties from the expansion. We have monster tokens, women tokens, and treasure tokens. The expansion will also include companions and legendary items. We're going to mix all of those together and we'll put them into a draw bag. Now these adventure tokens are a critical part of the game, not only in the final scoring for empire points, but they can also be used in game effects during the game. Each of the tokens will have its background, which will tell it whether it's a monster, woman, gold, companions, or a legendary item. And at the time that the token is received by an empire, it can either be kept or you have a one-time option of exchanging it for the values listed at the bottom. In this case, this 3-point monster token could be exchanged for 2 gold. This 3-point treasure token could be exchanged for 2 sorcery points. The value on the token tells you its strength, at least for the top 3. These other 2, you have the option to exchange them either for a companion or legendary item or 1 gold or 1 sorcery. So on this stand I have shuffled our companion deck and our legendary items deck. I've also added in the additional objective cards into the objective deck from the expansion, and we've shuffled that deck. And we've also shuffled our story deck, which is a part of the expansion. Next in the setup, we have to draw a number of objective cards equal to the number of players in the game. We're playing a 4-player game, so we're going to be drawing 4 objective cards, and we'll lay those out on the appropriate spaces of the board. Now these objective cards are going to be a great method for us to acquire our empire points. If we're able to complete 1 or more of these objective cards, we're going to gain the amount of empire points listed at the bottom of the card. That'll be resolved at the end of the first age. The starting cards include Hyborian Court. You accomplish this objective if you have more kingdom cards in your hand than any other player. It's worth 1 empire point. Then we have Armed Might. You accomplish this objective if you have more army units in play outside of your home province than any other player, and that's worth 1 empire point. Then we have Sorceress Nation. You accomplish this objective if you possess more sorcery tokens than any other player. It has a value of 1 empire point. And finally, Diplomatic Power. You accomplish this objective if you have greater total of towers plus cities than any other player, and that's worth 1 empire point. So each of our empires are going to be moving toward trying to complete as many of these cards as possible by the close of this first age. Next, each of the kingdoms is going to add in the expansion kingdom cards. There's 5 of them for each kingdom. They'll put those into the kingdom deck from the base game. And we're going to shuffle each of those decks, and those will form each of their kingdom decks. Next, we shuffle our strategy deck, and we place that in the strategy deck area. And now each player is going to draw 2 kingdom cards from their kingdom deck and 2 strategy cards from the common strategy deck. We're going to keep these cards face down, and that's one beauty of this solitaire system is each of the AI controlled factions, they keep their cards face down until it's their turn, and then we reveal them and attempt to play as many of them as possible. Any cards that remain at the conclusion of their turn are returned to the draw pile, and fresh cards are drawn. So it's a very interesting mechanism in the solo rules. So we'll give each of the kingdoms 2 kingdom cards, and 2 strategy cards. Next, from the expansion, we're going to shuffle our story deck. And each team is going to draw 2 story cards. We'll keep those face down. And at the same time, we're going to shuffle our legendary item cards and our companion cards to form both of those decks. Those I've got on a card stand. Now we place Conan in his home region of Samaria. And we're using the model for Conan the Warrior. That is his first phase of the life cycle of Conan. Next, we're going to take our adventure deck and we're going to shuffle that up, and we're going to draw 4 cards from there, and that will form our first age adventure deck. The other cards that we're not using we'll place off to the side for later use. So we have drawn a hand of 4 cards, and that will form our adventure deck. Now we're going to flip over the top card, and that will be Conan's initial adventure for the game. In this case, we have Iranistan. And that card reads, Iranistan is a warm and dry country populated by a myriad of tribes, always at war with each other and banded together only against the threat of Turan, their chief rival. All right, at the bottom of the card, we notice that there is a 4 there. That'll be the number of adventure tokens that we're going to lay out on this track, beginning from left to right. So we'll draw 4 tokens. And those tokens are revealed to be a 3-value monster token, 1-value monster token, another 1-value monster token, and a 2-value treasure token. Now the card indicates the destination of Conan. So we're going to place the destination token in Iranistan. So we'll place the destination token in Iranistan. So Conan is going to attempt to move from his home province and attempt to reach Iranistan, and the person that controls Conan will receive a reward. Next, we lay out the 4 artifact cards, and we're going to randomly distribute those, 1 to each faction. As this is a solo game, I'm going to roll a die and we'll assign one of the cards to each faction. And we'll begin with ourselves, and we'll take a look at which card we're going to gain for Stygian Empire. Result is a 2, so we're going to get the second card. Next, we'll make a roll for Aquilina. Rolled a 4, so the Aquilinans will gain the 4th card. Now we'll take a look at the Hyperboreans. They've rolled a 2, that's already been taken. That time they have a 2 and a 1. Okay, so the Hyperboreans will gain the 1st card, and then by default, Turan will gain the 3rd card. So we'll take a look at these and see which of the artifacts will go for each of our factions. All right, the Hyperboreans have gained the Heart of Tammuz. We have gained the Conan bonus. All right. Turan has gained, having a little trouble with that, there we go, the Sword of Atlantis. And finally, Aquilina has gained the Cobra Crown. All right. Now we're going to possess these artifacts and the Conan bonus card throughout this first age. After this age ends, we're going to have to bid for these items, and highest bidder will retain those artifacts. Now if we look at these artifacts, we have the Heart of Tammuz, and that has a key of women. The cost for playing and refreshing any play on the table cards is reduced by 1 gold to a minimum of 1. It's a good bonus, and we'll explain that when the time comes. We have that Conan bonus card. That'll help us in a bid. At the start of a Conan bid, you draw 2 strategy cards instead of 1. Then you bid for Conan using the normal rules. Then we have the Sword of Atlantis, and that's keyed to monsters. When you're involved in a military contest, you always win the contest if you have the same number of successes as your opponent, unless you have no successes at all. In this game, the defender wins ties, so this card would break the ties in favor of Turan. And finally, we have the Cobra Crown. That's tied to treasures. You roll 1 additional die up to 6 in all intrigue contests which you are involved. And you gain 1 additional gold when your emissaries collect gold. So that's a very valuable commodity. All right, we'll give these cards to each of the factions. Now, each of the factions is going to bid for control of Conan. Each side is going to draw an additional strategy card, and then they're going to play one of their Conan bid tokens. The sum of both of those, combined with the card, will equal their total bid. Now in the solo rules, we're going to make our bid out first, and then we will randomly determine the bids of the AI factions. Now looking at the strategy of this, we've got Conan up in Samaria. He's going to be eventually attempting to make his way towards Iranistan. So us as the Scythian Empire, we have to calculate how valuable Conan will be to us since he's starting in the northern realm. Probably not too much, so we're probably not going to make a full effort in attempting to acquire Conan. We'll save our larger bid tokens for the future. Each faction's bid tokens range between 6 down to 0. 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 0. The 0 bid is a special token. If you use your 0 bid token, it will be permanently removed from the game, but you'll be able to reacquire all of your other numbered tokens back in the game. It's a one-time use. The 3 bid is a special bid. If you bid 3, that token is not removed from play. If you bid either the 4, 5, or 6, that will be set off to the side and it can't be replayed unless it is returned either through a card play or by use of your 0 bid token. Now for the AI factions, we've removed their 0 bid token. They're obviously not going to use that at the start of the game. We'll include this into the random mix when it becomes a time that they've spent probably their higher numbered bid tokens, the 5 and 6 perhaps. So for right now, we randomize all of the remaining tokens for each of the factions that are controlled by AI, but we're not going to include the 0 bid, obviously. All right, we'll calculate our bid first. Now we've drawn, because of this Conan bonus card, it allows us to, at the start of a Conan bid, we draw 2 strategy cards instead of 1, and then we make our bid using the normal rules. So we can use any of these strategy cards for the Conan bid value. At the top of each of these cards is a symbol of Conan and a number. So we're going to combine the total of which card we play along with one of our Conan bid tokens. And that total will be our final bid for Conan. And we'll compare those totals for between us and the AI players. Now these cards also have other abilities on them. They can be used during a contest in battle with these terrain tokens listed at the bottom. The more terrain tokens, the more flexible that strategy card is. So if we end up playing one of these cards for the Conan value, it's going to be discarded. So we'll have to make that also combined with the map references on the card as well. Just as the bottom portion of the card with the terrain icons is used in a contest, the map portion is used when we do intrigue contests. And in our case, we are playing a 2 to 4 player game, so we will be looking at the 2 to 4 portion of the card, and that will tell us in what region we can play that card to modify an intrigue contest. So putting all of that into the mix, I probably don't want to play this 4-point card, as there's 3 different terrain icons on that card to be very flexible. So that would leave us then to these other 3 cards. We do have a 4-point Conan bid card and 2 1s. Probably don't want to use the 4-point Conan card yet because of the proximity of where he is in the north and us being in the southern part of the board. So that would probably restrict us then to these 2 cards, and more than likely I think I'll play the east card, and we'll do that. These cards we will keep, and then we can select one of our bid tokens, and I think we're just going to make a small bid here. We'll use the 3 bid token. That'll give us a total of a bid of 4, and we're going to get that token back, and we'll save our attempts at gaining Conan's favor for the future. Now in solo rules, how they are going to bid for Conan is they're going to randomly pull a random strategy card, and they're randomly going to pull a random bid token, and then we will resolve who will have Conan's favor for this beginning of the first stage. So now we'll reveal the totals for the bid for Conan. We know that we have bid 3 plus 1. We have a total bid of 4. Okay, let's check Aquilonia. They played the card with a 4 value for Conan and a 6 value for their bid token. They have a total of 10. They're leading the pack. Next we'll check Hyboria. They have played a card with a 6 value and a token of 3. That's a total of 9. So they've come in second so far. And finally we have Turin. Turin has played a card with a value of 6, and they've played a bid token of 4. So we've got a tie here. A tie between Turin and Aquilonia. In the case of a tie, the rules say that the role of Conan is assigned to the player with the lowest number of adventure tokens in his possession. Well, we're just starting the game, so both players have 0 adventure tokens. If they have the tie for the same number of adventure tokens, the role of Conan will go to the player whose kingdom is closest to the Conan figure, as determined by distance. In that case, it's going to be the Aquilonians. So the Aquilonians will win the bid. All of the tokens that were used in the bid will be set aside, with the exception of any players that played a 3-point token. They'll get those back. So in our case, for the Stygians, we're going to get our 3-point token back, as will the Hyperboreans. But the Aquilonians and the Turns, those tokens will be removed from play. So the Aquilonians, with their position near Samaria, was the deciding factor in obtaining Conan. And we'll place this generic Conan marker in the Aquilonian area to note that they are in control of Conan. And now that we've determined who is the Conan player, the Aquilonians will gain the first player marker, and we'll place that near their card deck. We have one action left to perform, and that is beginning with the Conan player and moving clockwise. Each player is going to place one of their spies. The requirements to place a spy are they have to be in a non-friendly province, and that province cannot contain any spies of any kind, even if they're friendly ones. Now I'm going to bring up a table on the screen, and this is our automatic kingdom spy placement table that I've designed for the expansion. Each of the automatic kingdoms will make a d6 roll, and will place their spy accordingly. So we'll make a d6 roll for Aquilonia. The result is a 3, and that is the east. So they're going to place a spy in any province that does not contain a spy that is within the eastern provinces. And we can do this pretty much randomly. The east is considered this yellow area around Turin. So we'll just assign numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to place the spy. On a roll of 6, we'll re-roll. And they've rolled a 3. So 1, 2, 3, they're going to place it in Kuharan. So they're going to place a spy in Kuharan. And I'll do the same for the other AI factions and for myself off camera, and I'll come back and show you the results. All right, so we've placed our spies. Aquilonia has placed a spy in Argos, one in Kaurin, and one in Punt. The Hyperboreans have placed one in Nordheim, one in Ophir, and another in Dafar. Turan has placed one in Gulistan, one in the tundra, and one way over in Zingara. We've placed ours in Western Shem, Koth, and Zamora. And finally, we place the Empire trackers for each of the factions near the Empire Points track. And that completes the setup, and we're ready to begin the game. First player will be the Aquilonian player, as he is also the Conan player. To begin the game, the first player is going to roll these fate dice. The fate dice are very similar to action dice in the game War of the Ring. They each have different symbols on them, and during a turn, a faction is going to select one of those die and play it for the action listed. So the Aquilonians will roll the 7 fate dice and will place those in the fate dice pool. All right, there is the results. And we'll go over these dice and what the symbols mean in a moment. All right, for this roll, we have 3 of these Court and Conan dice results. We have 1 intrigue die, we have 2 military dice, and we have 1 wild die. Now the selection of a Court and Conan die, its use will depend on whether you are the Conan player or a non-Conan player. Now before any player selects a die, we have to determine if that active faction is the Conan player or a non-Conan player. In this case, we're beginning with the first player, which is the Conan player, and that's Aquilonia. His first decision is whether he chooses to want to move Conan. If he moves Conan towards his destination, which in this case is Iranistan, if he moves them closer towards that destination, he gets to take the rightmost adventure token from the track. Now Conan, if he is friendly to that faction, gives benefits to them during contests, either military contests or intrigue contests. So there will be times when you might not want to move Conan. You might want to leave him where he is, or you might want to move him in a direction that is not closer towards his destination. In that case, the player will not be able to take a token from the adventure track. So you're balancing the benefits of Conan with that token that you'd be eligible to take from the track. In this case, the Aquilonians will move Conan to the border kingdoms. If Conan is not moved closer towards his destination, that token that they would normally be eligible for is instead discarded, and that's removed from the game. Now, as the Aquilonians have moved Conan closer to his destination, they're eligible to take the right-handmost adventure token from the display. And they will do that. So they've gained a 2-point treasure token. Now, they have an option now. They can either keep this token, placing it in their command area, and they would place that upside down. And they'll start building a collection of those tokens. They also can exchange it for the value listed, in this case, 1 gold. Now in the case of these solitaire rules, the automatic kingdom, when they gain a token, they're going to roll a d6. On a result of 1 to 3, they're going to exchange that token for the value listed rather than keeping the token. So we'll make the roll and see what they're going to do. In this case, they've rolled a 1. So they will exchange that token for 1 gold. And so we'll give 1 gold to the Aquilonians. So that adventure token is removed from the game, and it will only be returned if we're told to do so by card play. So we'll add the 1 gold to Aquilonia's total. They have a total of 4 gold now. And now the active player is going to select one of these fate dice to use during their turn. We'll go over what each of these fate dice will be able to accomplish for the players. Now the Court and Conan dice, those function differently depending upon whether you are the Conan player or a non-Conan player. If the Conan player would select this die, the first part of that option is that the Conan player can choose to move Conan to an adjacent province. And then he can also place raider tokens on any space that is occupied or adjacent to Conan, either before or after moving. In the case of an AI player, it would be placed in a random eligible province. If it was a non-Conan player taking that fate die, that would entitle him to draw the leftmost adventure token from the adventure track. And then he would keep that face down in front of him, and once again they can exchange that token for the benefit or keep the token. Then the player performs the court action, and he has 2 choices. He can either 1, draw 1 card from his kingdom deck and 1 card from his strategy deck, or he can draw 2 cards from the strategy deck. And it's important to note that certain kingdom cards are known as event cards, and those require a court action to play. A player may play 1 such event card from his hand as his court action instead of drawing cards. The next type of die is an intrigue die. A player performing an intrigue action must select one of the following. They can move up to 2 of their emissaries. Player may move 1 emissary and then may start 1 intrigue contest in a neutral or enemy province. Or the player can move 1 of his emissaries and then collect the gold in an enemy province containing 1 of his emissaries. That'll remove the emissary from the board, and they would receive gold from the communal gold pool equal to the rating of the province. Those are the 3 actions available for intrigue. Next, we have a military die. The player would select one of the following to perform. The player can move up to 2 armies to adjacent friendly provinces, or the player can move 1 army to an adjacent friendly province and then attack with any friendly army. Players attack by moving an army located in a province into an adjacent neutral or adjacent enemy province and then starting a military contest there. Their final option would be to place an army unit in up to 2 different friendly provinces from their reserve. And finally, we have the wild die, and that allows us to use that die as any die symbol that is available, either military, intrigue, or court and Conan. Now the limitations with the wild die, you can't use the wild die if there would be an action on one of the other dice that you would choose. As an example, if I wanted to use this wild die, I cannot use it as a court and Conan die because I could select one of those 3. So you have to have, in order to use the wild die, it has to be for a function that is not available at the time when you're selecting it. So in order for Aquilonia to determine which die they'd like to select, they would take into account the cards in their hand and the current objectives that are available. In addition, we would also take into consideration the location of Conan. So the Aquilonian player has 2 strategy cards, they have 2 kingdom cards, and they also have 2 story cards. Now, prior to us selecting one of those fate dice, we have to decide if we want to play any of these play on the table cards. Now, in this case, we have 2 of them, Count Trocero and Black Legion. In order to play that on the board, we have to pay the cost listed at the bottom of the card. For the AI player, he will always try to play a card in the order of the highest value going down to the lowest value if he has the gold to do it. So in this case, the Aquilonian player will play this Black Legion, play on the table. It's an elite unit. It'll cost him 3 gold. So he'll pay the 3 gold. And that card says, use at the start of a military contest. If you roll at least 1 axe result during the contest, add 2 successes to your total. So it's a pretty powerful card. Next, we would determine if there are any other play on the table cards available. He does have one. This is a character, Count Trocero. That'll cost him 1 gold. And he has a gold to pay for that, so they will do that. And this says, use at any time during your turn. Remove 1 of your spies to move Conan to an adjacent province. All right, so we've paid these gold, and those cards are going to be play on the table. We play them face up in their play area. Now we'll take a look at the other cards he has. Now he has 2 of these strategy cards. Those would be useful in military campaigns, in hills, plains, or forest. They're also useful in anywhere in the north for intrigue actions. They also have 2 story cards. These cards can be played whenever Conan is in a region specified by the card. In this case, in the Pictish wilderness or in western Shem. If the story card is successfully resolved, the player gets a reward. He's able to draw 2 adventure tokens, keep 1. The other he would trade for either gold or sorcery listed on the icons. So these are very powerful if you're able to use them, but it depends on the location of where Conan is. So with all of that knowledge, we will attempt to decipher what the Aquilonians will do. Continuing on with the automatic kingdom turn sequence, we come to number 4. And that says refresh any play on the table cards currently on the table and in need of refreshing. When we've got those cards on the table, they can be used once and then they are turned upside down. They can be refreshed for paying the cost at the bottom of the card. In our case, either 3 gold or 1 gold. Then we check if there are any instant cards in the automatic kingdom's hand that are eligible to be played. If the card lists any conditions on when it should be played, such as played before a military contest, the card is not played immediately but is played later in the automatic kingdom's turn if the conditions are met. Then we check to see if there are any event cards in their hand, and if so, if there's a court and Conan fate die, they will use that die in order to play that event card. If either of those conditions are not met, then they're going to make a random roll using the fate die preference chart, and that's what will be happening in this case, as they don't have any event cards in their hand. So Aquilonia will be making a fate die roll. There are some modifiers. If they have no forts or cities, it's a +1. If they have fewer forts or cities than all other kingdoms, it's another +1. If they have no towers, it's -1. And if they have fewer towers than all other kingdoms, it's another -1. And these are commutative modifiers. In this case, there'll be no modifiers because they have no forts or cities. That would give them a +1, but they also have no towers, and that's a -1. So we'll make a roll on the chart and see what their preference table choices will be. They've rolled a 4, and that's going to be court followed by military, and then intrigue. So in this case, they will take the court action. So they're going to be using a court Conan die. And since they are the Conan player, it says when you use a court Conan die result, you may move Conan and place one raider token. So that's what they're going to do. So they have a choice now to play a raid token. They can play it either before or after they move in any space they're in or adjacent space. So what we should do is assign the possible locations for these, for the raider token, and make a die roll. So I've placed some of these small white dice to reflect the possible locations where the raider tokens could be placed. We're going to make the move. He could have placed them before, so it could be here, here, or here, here, or here. But he's going to move into Numidia. That'll close the gap going towards Iranistan. And then we'll make a roll. I'm going to use a D8 in this case because we have a total of 7 possible choices. And then that's where we're going to place the raider token. Here's the D8 roll. Result is a 7, so we're going to be placing a raider token in the space 7 in this case, which is Ophir. So we'll get rid of these white dice, and that is the first part of the Conan and Crown action. Now in this case, as they have no event cards to play, they are going to end up drawing a strategy card and a kingdom card. We're going to keep those cards face down, so they're going to draw one of their kingdom cards and a strategy card. And we're going to keep those face down so that the other, we don't know what they are. And that's going to bring the automatic kingdom of Aquilonia's turn to a close. What we do then is we take all cards that are not play on the table cards in their hand, and we will discard those and draw an equal replacement of each kind of card, keeping them face down. So we won't know the nature of their hand until next turn. So in this case, we're going to be drawing 2 new story cards and 2 new strategy cards. All right, these will go into a discard. And so that's going to complete their turn, and we'll move on to the next in turn order, which is going to be Hyboria. So for Hyboria, we're going to reveal their cards. So looking at their cards, we're going to check to see if there are any play on the table cards in their hand. And they do have one of those, Reavers from the Far North. And if they have the cash, they are going to play that card on the table. They do. So they're going to pay 1 gold, and they will play this Reavers from the Far North card on the table. It says use it any time during your turn. Move one of your armies to an adjacent friendly province. Okay, so we'll keep that face up on the table. We have no cards to refresh, so our next step would be to play any instant cards in the Automatic Kingdom's hand. And they do have an instant card, and that says Tidings from the White Hand. Play at any time during your turn. Draw a number of kingdom cards up to the number of spies you have in play, up to 3. So they will do that. They're going to play that instant card. And they'll play that right now. There's no cost involved in that. So the kingdom card that we just played, Tidings from the White Hand, is going to be placed in the discard. And we're going to draw a number of kingdom cards up to the number of spies. So we will do that. We have a total of 3 spies on the board currently. So we'll draw 3 kingdom cards and reveal those and see what happens. All right, we've got an event card, Spells of Ice and Magic, Curse of Bori, that's an event, and another instant card, Summon Night Gaunts. Play during your refresh phase. Spend 1 sorcery token to refresh up to 2 of your play on the table cards without spending gold. Okay. Well, we would normally spend this instant card, but we have no cards to refresh currently, so we'll save that for the time being. The other cards, there are 2 event cards there, And since we have a Court and Conan die on the board, that is what they're going to do. They'll select the Court and Conan fate die for their action. We also want to keep an eye on these two story cards. If Conan was in either of those locations, the AI player will attempt to solve those story cards, but not in this case. So since they have a Conan and Court die available, they're going to use that, and they are the non-Conan player. So in this case, what they do, if that is the choice of their die, they get to select the rightmost adventure token for free. In this case, they gain a 1-point monster token. So they're going to make a roll on a 1 to 3 with a d6. They are going to use that for its ability, in this case gaining a sorcery token. Here's the roll. They rolled a 6, so they're going to keep this, and they will invert that and keep that in their play area. All right. And next is the Court portion of the die, and they have the choice now of either drawing 1 card from the Kingdom deck and 1 from the Strategy deck, 2 cards from the Strategy deck, or play a Kingdom event card, and that's what they're going to do. They have several of these, and they're going to play the Kingdom event card, Spells of Ice Magic. You receive 3 sorcery tokens. All right, so that card will be discarded, and they're going to gain 3 sorcery tokens. And so we'll give Hyboria a 3-value sorcery token. That'll give them a total of 5 sorcery tokens. And that's going to bode well for them with this Sorceress Nation objective. You accomplish this objective if you possess more sorcery tokens than any other player. All right, so that will work well for them. And that's going to bring their turn to a close. So we discard any cards that have not been played in the hand, and we take an equal number of replacements from the draw decks. And so now we'll move on to Turan. And we'll start their turn by revealing all the cards they have, and we'll see what plays we can make. We'll begin by examining their cards and see if they have any play on the table cards that they could use. And they do. They have this card, Amrath Shah. That'll cost 2 gold for them to do it. They have 2 gold. So they'll spend the 2 gold and play this card on the table. It says, use after rolling the contest dice during a military contest. Re-roll up to 3 dice on your roll. Okay, so they've activated that card. They have no play on the table cards that need to be reactivated and refreshed, so we'll move on to the next step, and that would be to play any instant cards. And they do have 1 instant card, the Hand of Nurgle. Play before military contest. You count any shield or axe results in your contest roll as successes. Additionally, you may spend 1 sorcery token to roll 1 additional die, up to 6. Well, that card would be played if we will take a military action. As they have no event cards, they're going to be rolling on the fate die chart. We'll check our story cards, but none of them will apply to where Conan is. He's not in the east, and he's not in the province of Punt. So consulting the fate die preference table, we'll make a roll. There will be no modifiers at this point. The result is a 4, and that says court, military, and then intrigue. Well, there is a court action available, so they will take that. So they're going to take the Court and Conan die, and since they are the non-Conan player, they will take the rightmost token on the display. And they're going to take this 1-valued monster token. We'll make a d6 roll and see if they're going to keep it or if they're going to trade it in for a sorcery token. And here's the roll. Okay, they're going to keep the token, so we will invert that and place that into their play area. They'll keep that for future use. Now we have to check to see if they have an event card that could be played. They do not. So in this case, they will either take 2 strategy cards or a strategy and kingdom card. And in this case, they're going to take 1 of each. So we'll give them a strategy card and a kingdom card. The other cards are going to be discarded and replaced accordingly. And now we'll move on to our turn, and that's the Kingdom of Stygia. Our first step is we're going to check our story cards. We have the Star of Kerala and Rogues in the House. Neither of those cards are going to be able to apply, though, to the location of where Conan is. So we will keep those cards for the time being. Then we'll check our kingdom cards that we have and see if any of those would be applicable. We have two instant cards. Sorcerers of Acheron and the Serpent King of Set. Acheron is play at the start of a military contest. Spend 2 sorcery tokens. Your opponent can only roll a maximum of 2 dice. Okay, the other one is play at any time during your turn. Spend a sorcery token to force an opponent to discard one of his character cards in play that needs to be refreshed. Okay. So we have to decide on what fate die we're going to use. There is an intrigue die, 2 military dice, and a wild. Now if we take the wild, we could use that as a Conan and Crown die. That would get us the final adventure token from the track, and then that is going to bring that first adventure card to a close. Conan has not reached his destination yet, so the Conan player would not be able to gain his bonus, which is a free draw of an adventure token. So that is an option for us, but I think we're going to take advantage of the military die instead. And we're going to play a military action. So we'll place that in Stygia to mark that we have selected the military action. And I think we're going to launch an attack. We have the ability to move an army up to 1 friendly province and then launch an attack into an enemy province. In this case, we don't have to. We're in our home province right now. An army is considered any number of troops in an area. We're limited to a total of 5 troops in any army except in our home province. We can have as many there as we choose. So I think what we'll do is we're going to move an army into Western Shem. We'll move all 4 units in there. We have a spy there, and we're going to make use of him. Now, as we've moved military units into an adjacent province that is not controlled by us, we are going to conduct a military contest. And there's 3 different types of military contests. We have a campaign, a siege, and a battle. In this case, it's going to be a campaign. Campaign is fought when a player uses one of his armies to subjugate a neutral province. And that is the case here. A siege is fought when a player uses one of his armies to attack an enemy province under the control of another player. And finally, a battle is fought when the armies of 2 players confront each other in a neutral province. In this case, this is going to be a campaign. So what we do is we take one of our armies, we place that on the first icon in this campaign display. In this case, it is a yellow icon. That yellow icon is considered a plains terrain. So that would allow us to use strategy cards that display any of that type of terrain. In this case, we have several cards that we could play. We've got 2 cards here that have the plains symbols at the bottom of the card. If we play that, we get the benefit at the top of the card. In this case, the defensive shields symbols on the battle dice will be active in our favor. Normally, those are considered misses. So we're going to calculate our battle dice, and we're going to get a number of dice equal to the number of armies that we have in the province. In this case, we've got a total of 4. So we would be eligible to roll 4 battle dice. The amount of dice that the defender will roll in this case is equal to the province level, and in this case it is 3. So he's going to be rolling 3 dice during his roll. Now the attacker is able to play a strategy card if he chooses. And I think we're going to do that. I'm going to play this strategy card, which is going to allow us to be used in the current terrain. And that's going to give us the ability to count the defensive shields results as successes. Now we also have a spy available in this location, and we can choose to use him. Before the contest, we can remove the spy and add an extra die to the roll, and I think we will do that. So we're going to consume the spy. It's going to give us an extra roll in addition to the strategy card that we played, which is going to allow us to count shields. Let's go over these battle dice now. Now the possible results in these battle dice are as follows. We have the first one is a hit. That will be a hit for a success for both the attacker and defender. The next is a hit and Conan. This result counts as one success for a non-Conan player, or two successes for the Conan player if Conan is present in the province. The third one is a hit just for the attacker. It has that black background, and that will only apply as a hit for the attacking forces. Then we have the shield. Normally the shield counts as a failure. However, when certain cards are played, it can be modified into a success. And in our case, we're playing this card which will activate the shields to be successes. Same goes for axes. Those are normally counted as failures, but there are cards that would allow those to be considered successes. And finally, we have the miss die, and nothing will happen as a result of that. So we're going to be rolling a total of 5 battle dice, and we'll see what our attack strength is. All right, let's take a look at those dice, and we'll add up our attack strengths. In this case, the only die that scores is this attacker hit die, so we have a total of 1 hit at this point. And as we've done kind of poorly, I think we're going to spend one of our sorcery tokens. The sorcery token allows us to re-roll all of our dice. We can't keep certain dice and re-roll others with this. We have to either use it and re-roll all of them or accept the result. So I'm going to use the sorcery token, and we're going to re-roll all of these dice. You can only do that once though per battle. All right, I had to change my battery, but we're going to roll now using that sorcery die and see if we can get better than just 1 success. All right, well, in this case, we have a total of 2 successes this time. So we've improved our position a little bit. All right, now the defenders are going to roll. They're going to get a total of 3 dice to roll, as that is the province strength of the province. Here's their roll. All right, and they have a total of 1 success. These other 2 will not apply. That is only if Conan was present, and this would only work if they had a special condition to make the swords work. So we've won that 2-1. What happens is we advance our token on the campaign track, and now it moves into an urban area. And we have to stop the battle here. We can continue the battle by doing what's called a forced march. We would have to remove one of our armies, and then that would allow us to continue the battle if we choose to do that. In this case, I think we're going to pause the battle here, and we'll accept the victory that we have. And that's how a battle contest works, at least in the campaign sense. Intrigue contests are very similar to this, but with some different nuances. So in this case, our turn is going to come to a close, and we'll move back to the Conan player and Aquilonia. So the automatic kingdom of Aquilonia will now activate. They are the Conan player. So if the acting player is the Conan player, he may move Conan. If he moves him closer to the adventurer's destination province, he takes the rightmost token from the adventure track. So he'll do that. He's going to move Conan into Corinthia, and then he's going to gain this last token. And in this case, it is a 3-point monster token. We'll see if he's going to keep that or trade it in for the bonus gold coins. Here's the roll. Result is a 6. He's going to keep that. So we'll invert that, put that into his area, and he's kept that adventure token. Now we're going to take a look at all of his strategy and kingdom cards in his hand. And these are the cards that the Aquilonia player currently has. He does have one play on the table card. It's an elite unit, Gunderlin Pikeman. Unfortunately, he has no gold left, so he won't be able to use that play on the table card at this time. He also has 2 story cards, but neither of them will correspond with Conan's location. That would be in Central Shem or Southern Shem. So in this case, to determine which fate die they're going to choose, we're going to roll a die. There are no modifiers at this point. Here's the roll. Rolls a 4, and that's going to be a court die, a military die, and then an intrigue die. Well, there would be a court die available if they choose the wild die, which is what they're going to have to do. Conan is going to move into Zamora, which is occupied by one of our spies. So in this case, the Conan player is going to attempt to eliminate our spy. To eliminate a spy, the Conan player rolls a number of combat dice equal to the number currently indicated by the mood wheel. The Conan player may spend 1 or more gold tokens to advance the marker on the mood wheel first. So let's take a look at the mood wheel. So examining the mood wheel, we find out that Conan is currently at +1, so that would only give him 1 die to roll for this attempt. The Conan player, if he had gold, would be able to spend 1 to advance that Conan mood to gain further benefits of dice. In this case, he doesn't have any gold, so he won't do that. So Conan is going to roll 1 standard die, that is his current mood rating. And if he's able to get a success, it is going to permanently remove the spy in question. So we don't want him to be successful in this. Here's the roll. And he's rolled a shield. We've gotten lucky because any success would have eliminated our spy. So in this case, our spy is safe. So now the Conan player has the option of drawing a strategy card and a kingdom card from the appropriate decks, and then laying them face down in their area. That's what they'll do. The other cards in his hand are going to be cleaned up, and he will receive replacement cards for those cards. In this case, 2 story cards, 3 strategy cards, and 1 faction card. Or I should say kingdom card. Now we have completed Conan's adventure. It says when any player takes or discards the last remaining adventure token on the adventure track, that adventure ends. The player currently taking his turn finishes his turn, and then the adventure is resolved. To resolve the adventure, we check Conan's current position. If he is in his destination location, Conan has successfully completed his adventure, and the Conan player would draw 1 adventure token directly from the container as a reward. If Conan is not occupying the same province as the destination, he's immediately moved to that province. However, the Conan player does not receive an additional token, and that's the case here. So we're going to discard the current adventure, Iranistan, and we're going to draw another adventure for Conan, and this time we have Koth. One of the oldest Hyborian kingdoms, powerful Koth imposes vassalage and tribute to neighboring nations, but it is constantly on the verge of civil war. The capital, Kor Shamish, is a famed center for armor making. Now this adventure is going to have a total of 3 tokens, so we're going to draw 3 tokens and lay them out from left to right. So the new tokens are going to include a 1 strength woman token, 2 strength treasure, and a 3 strength treasure. The new target for Conan is going to be the province of Koth. So what we do is we take the Conan marker, move him to his destination, and then we're going to place the new destination in Koth. That's where he'll be trying to get next. And now, as we have a new adventure, we're going to go through the bidding procedure to see who is going to control Conan. All right, all of the non-player teams have drawn a strategy card and a random Conan bid token. We were able to draw an additional card due to our Conan bonus. It allows us to draw 2 strategy cards instead of 1, and then we bid for Conan using the normal rules. So we've done that. We'll reveal the totals now. I have elected to play a 4-value Conan card along with a 5-value bid token. We have a total of 9. The Hyboreans have played a 6, and the card they played is value 1. So they've played a total of 7. We've got the lead 9-7. The Aquilonians have played a 3, and the card value is a 3. They have 6. All right, so all we have to do now is beat Turans. They have played a 3 token, and the card they played is a 4 for a total of 7. So we've won, and we are going to be in control of Conan. So the 4, 5, and 6 value tokens are removed from the game for this point. These 3 value tokens will be returned to the respective teams, and we're going to gain control of Conan. And in this case, the first player token is going to be placed with the next team in line, which would be the Hyboreans. So we examine the cards of Hyboria. And first thing we'll check is the story cards. Neither of them are the location or adjacent to the location of Conan, so we won't be able to play those cards. Next, we'll check to see if there are any play on the table cards. There are not. Next step would be to check if there are any play on the table cards that could be refreshed, and they don't have any. So we'll move on to the instant cards. They do have one instant card, and that is Tidings from the White Hand. Play at any time during your turn. Draw a number of kingdom cards up to the number of spies that you have in play, and they will use that card. So they will spend that card, and they're going to draw 3 kingdom cards, and we'll examine those. All right, the new kingdom cards are War Priest of Bori. He is a character. Blood Queen of Sictona. That's also a character. And then we have Raise the Dead. That is an instant card. So in this case, they will use that instant card. Play it any time during your turn. Spend 1 sorcery token to place 2 army units in Hyboria. So they will do that. They're going to spend a sorcery token, and they're going to place 2 army units in their capital. So we'll place 2 army units in their capital. There is no stacking limit when you're in your capital. Any other neutral provinces have a maximum capacity of 5 units. The next attempt for the automatic kingdom would be to use an event card. Well, they have an event card, but there are no Court and Conan fate dice remaining. So they're going to be moving on to an fate die preference table roll. Now that Raise the Dead card has been played. We've paid the appropriate sorcery tokens, and we'll make the roll. There will be no modifiers at this point. Roll is a 6, and that's going to be military, court, and then intrigue. So in this case, they are going to be using a military die. So the Hyboreans are going to be using the military die. And since they've just selected that action, it says carry out the action using the following order of precedence. Attack 1 neighboring neutral or enemy province for which more contest dice could be rolled than the defender, taking into account pre-attack redeployment of an army. This includes neighboring neutral provinces containing a campaigning enemy army, in which case a battle would be fought, rather than a campaign, and neighboring neutral provinces where campaign is already in progress from a previous turn. All right, so in this case, they want to look for a neutral province that would give them more contest dice. And as they have a total of 6 armies there, they'll be able to deploy 5. So in this case, it would be in any of the adjoining provinces. So I've placed out white dice to correspond to the possible regions that the attack could be played into. This is a good opportunity to talk about what is known as savage provinces. A savage province is any province with its province number crossed with 2 bones. What that means is that region cannot be subjugated by using diplomacy or intrigue. It has to be taken militarily. So we'll make a roll and see the target of their attack. If we roll a 6, we'll re-roll. And we did roll a 6, so we'll re-roll that. Result is a 4, so they're going to be targeting Zamora. All right. So they're going to move in the maximum amount of units they can into Zamora, and that'll be a total strength of 5. And they're going to begin with a campaign in a forest area. All right. Now we have a spy located here, and we can, if we choose, we can consume that spy, and then the Zamorans will have an extra die to roll during the contest. Now the Hyboreans are currently going to be rolling 5 dice. That is the strength of their army. Now if they chose, they could play a strategy card. Unfortunately, they don't have a strategy card that matches the wooded terrain. So they're going to be just rolling 5 dice. And they'll be using the standard results for those dice. So let's give them a roll. All right, they have rolled a total of 2 successes. That's all they have. They could use a sorcery token if they chose, but I think they'll accept the 2 successes. We're going to use our spy. We'll consume the spy, and Zamora is going to be rolling 4 dice plus an extra 1 for the spy, so they have 5 rolls, 5 dice. And we'll see how they do. We have 2 successes so far for Hyboria. Here's the roll. And they have a total of nothing. They have no successes at all. These are only valid if Conan is there, and this would be valid if they had some type of card that would give them the crossed swords. So the Hyboreans have won the first battle, and they'll move on now to the hills. And I think they're going to force march, so they're going to consume one of their armies, and they're going to continue the battle. So checking their cards, the Hyboreans now have a strategy card that can be played. That's this card that shows the hills symbol. That will make the shields active for them in their roll. They're going to be rolling a total of 4 dice now. That's the number of armies that they have. But now shields will be considered successes for them. Okay, here is the roll. All right, they have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 successes. All right, the Zamorans will be rolling a total of 4 dice, so they're basically going to need a total of all successes in order to stop this, because they're going to win ties. Here's their roll. And they have a total of 2 successes. They had a valiant effort, but the Hyboreans were stronger. So in this case, Hyboria takes control of Zamora. So they're going to remove one of their armies, and they're going to place a fort in Zamora. And the conquering Hyboreans are going to gain a total empire points equal to the conquest value. In this case, it's 4. So we're going to give them 4 empire points. So we advance the Hyboreans to 4 empire points. And as you can see, there's potentially quite a bit of strategy in this game. You're going to be looking for provinces to attack, but taking into account the terrain and the cards that you have, plus any possible play on the table cards or instant cards. So there's a lot of stuff happening here, and I think this really does a good job in representing that style of warfare that you would expect from the Hyborian era. So that's going to complete Hypoboria's turn, and we'll refresh their cards and we'll move on to Turan. So we'll begin by examining the cards for Turan. They currently have only one event card. The two story cards cannot be played at this time. They don't reflect the location of Conan. Although they have an instant card, there is no Crown and Conan die available. So in this case, they would normally roll on the table. But as there is only one die left in the pool, they will have to take this action, and that's going to be an intrigue action. So Turan will take an intrigue action. We're going to utilize their emissaries. The first step in an intrigue action would be to, if an emissary could be moved into a neutral or enemy province, and an intrigue contest performed there in which more contest dice would be rolled in the contest than the defender, they would perform the action. Well, in this case, that will not apply, so we'll move on to the next one. It says move one emissary to an enemy province and remove the emissary from the board to collect gold in that province. And that's what they'll do. In that case, they're going to move this emissary into the Hyperborean controlled province of Zamora, and they're going to collect 4 gold tokens. And so we'll give Turan 4 gold. That gives him a total of 5 gold now. That'll bring their turn to a close. We're going to cycle all their cards, and we'll move on to Stygia. So it would be Stygia's turn. Now there are no dice left in the fate dice pool, so we're going to have to collect all those dice back and give them a roll. And here's the fate dice roll. All right, those are the results. Now we have one new dice out here that we didn't see before. That's a combination dice, and that is this military or intrigue die. That works in a similar fashion to the wild die, and that is that you can't take that die if there is another die of the same type that you're planning on using it for in the pool. So in this case, we couldn't take this die and use it for an intrigue because there is an intrigue die that we could take already. So that's kind of the rules regarding how those are taken. Now we are the Conan player, so we get to move Conan and attempt to get him to his destination. So we're going to move Conan from Ranistan to the Eastern Desert. And we get to take the rightmost token from the adventure track, and we're going to gain a 3-point treasure token, and we're going to keep that. So we will invert that token and keep it for future use. Well, we have no play on the table cards that we can pay for to place out on the board, so we're going to choose a fate die. And I think we're going to select this Crown and Conan die. That's going to allow us to move Conan to an adjacent province and place a raider token. We're going to move him into Karaja. That'll get him closer to his destination, and we can place a raider token in an adjacent province. And I think as Conan, when he was in the Eastern Desert, Turan would have been adjacent to him. He's going to place it there. Now those raider tokens will have an effect when we reach the end of the age. If those aren't dealt with properly, they will cost empire points. Now we're going to take our court actions, and we have the choice of drawing a card from our kingdom deck and 1 strategy card, 2 strategy cards, or we can play one of our event cards that requires a court action. So let's take a look at that. Both of the cards I have are instant cards, so I think I'm going to select a kingdom card and a strategy card. We'll add those to our hand of cards, and that's going to bring our turn to a close. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play through the rest of this age off camera, and then we'll rejoin and I'll show the viewers how the end of age is resolved. That's one of the more interesting parts of the game. So I will be back in a little bit. All right, so we have completed all the turns up to the end of the first age. So we're going to be resolving our age change phase for the first time. We begin by resolving our raids. We're going to be examining each province where a raid token is located and that is under friendly control of a faction. In this case, the only raids we've got are in Ophir, Karaja, and one in Turin. These two are not owned by anyone, so those tokens are just simply removed from play. However, the raid token that is in Turan has to be dealt with, and the choices are the Turan player can, if he has an army there, he can spend the army to remove the raid token, and that's what he's going to do. That is per the solitaire rule, so he doesn't suffer any loss for empire points. If he didn't have the ability or didn't want to, he would end up losing 2 empire points for that. Next, we are going to receive gold and objective prizes. We're going to award empire points to the automatic kingdoms for any objectives that they have completed. We'll start by receiving our gold. During the age change phase, players will capitalize on their conquests. Each player will receive 2 gold for each of his tower or city control markers on the board, plus 5 gold to represent the wealth of the kingdom. We'll begin with Stygia, that's us. We're going to receive 5 for our kingdom value, but we don't have any towers or cities. All we have is the fortification here, so we don't get any credit for that. So we're going to receive a total of 5 gold. So we'll gain a 5 gold there. Then we'll move to Apollonia. They have a tower that'll be worth 2, and that's it. So they're going to be receiving a total of 7 gold. We'll give them 7 gold. So we'll award them 7 gold. We'll move on to Hyboria. Hyboria just has its home province. They do have a fort, but no credit for that, so they're going to gain 5 gold. And we'll give Hyboria a 5er. And finally, Turin. Turin has just 1 fortification, so all they're going to receive is 5 gold. And we'll give them a 5er. All right, now we're going to see if any of the teams have completed the objectives. All right, the first objective is Hyborian Court. To accomplish this objective, you have to have more kingdom cards in your hand than any other player. So we'll examine the totals. And it ends up that Stygia has a total of 4 kingdom cards. They have more than anybody else. The next closest was Aquilina, and they had 3. So we're going to claim that card and 1 point on the empire track. That moves us up to a total of 4 now. All right. And then that card will eventually be replaced. But we're going to continue on with the next objective. That's Armed Might. You accomplish this objective if you have more army units in play outside of your home province than any other player. So we will calculate that. And no one qualifies for that. We've got 2 teams that are tied at 4, but that's it. Go on to the next one, Sorceress Nation. You accomplish this objective if you possess more sorcery tokens than any other player. And that's definitely going to be Hyboria. They have a total of 9 sorcery tokens, so they're going to gain 1 on the empire track. And we'll move them up 1. They are now leading the pack at 5. And finally, Diplomatic Power. You accomplish this objective if you have a greater total of towers plus cities than any other player. And right now, that is Aquilina. They have 1 tower. No one else has any towers, so they are going to qualify for that. And that is going to give them 1 empire point. That will move them up to a tie from 4 to 5 with the Hyperboreans. Next step is we replace any objectives that have been removed with new cards. We've got military power, trade routes, and the Road of Kings. All right. Next step is build cities and raise troops. The automatic kingdom will first place an army unit from the reserve in each friendly province containing a city or tower, provided enough reserve armies are available. Any province containing a fort will then be upgraded to a city using a tower from the reserve if one is available. Otherwise, an army unit will be placed there from the reserve if available. All right, we'll begin with Hyperboria. All they have on the board is a fort. So they won't be gaining any armies, but what they will do is upgrade that fort into a city. So we're going to snap a tower onto that fortification and turn that into a city in Zamora for them. So they have gained a city. We'll move in order now to Turin. Turin has no cities or towers, but they do have a fort, and they're going to upgrade that to a city, and that is located in Kuhara. And so that has been upgraded to a city. Same will go for Stygia. We're going to upgrade our fortification that we have in western Shem, and we're going to turn that into a city. So we upgrade that into a city. Finally, we go with Aquilonia, and they have a tower there. So that will allow them to place an army in that location. All right. And now each team will get to spend gold. For the automatic kingdoms, they're going to roll a d6 to determine which unit, card, or cards the automatic kingdom will purchase, subject to the limit of their available units in the reserve. On a roll of 1, they are going to purchase an army unit. On a 3 to 4, they'll purchase an emissary. On a 5, they will purchase a strategy card and a kingdom card. And on a roll of 6, they will just purchase a strategy card. We're going to keep rolling until the results cannot be fulfilled due to the automatic kingdom having insufficient gold or pieces in the reserve. So we will do that. I'll take care of that off camera. Incidentally, emissaries will cost 2 gold, army units 2 gold. A kingdom and strategy card will cost 2 gold, and 1 strategy card will cost 1 gold. Hyperborea has a total of 6 gold. We'll see what they're going to purchase. Hyperborea has purchased a total of 3 armies for 6 gold. They're going to place 1 into their new city, and the rest of them they will put back in their home province. You can only have up to 5 in a province other than your home region, which can be unlimited number of armies. So they've spent all of their gold. Turin has decided to build 1 army, which they're going to place in their city. Gives them a total of 5 armies there. They've also purchased a strategy card and a strategy and kingdom card, and that fulfilled all of their available gold that they had. Stygia has a total of 6 gold, and I think I'm going to be building some armies, and I think we'll build 3 of them. I'm going to place 2 in my city, bringing them up to a total of 5, and we'll place the extra 1 in Stygia itself, and we've got 2 armies there. I've got plenty of other cards, so I chose not to purchase any cards. Aquilonia has a total of 7 gold, and we'll see what they're going to spend that on. Aquilonia has purchased 2 armies and 2 strategy cards. And they're going to place those armies, I believe, in their tower area. All right, and that completes that step. Step 5, now we're going to assign artifacts and the Conan bonus card. So we're going to collect all of those artifact cards, And then we're going to determine, based upon the adventure tiles for each character, who is going to get which of those artifacts. Each kingdom is going to examine all of their adventure tokens, and they're going to add up to find out which is the strongest of the 3 bids that are possible, and they're going to lay those out in an attempt to gain that artifact that is associated with that adventure token. Checking the totals, Aquilonia has a total of 13 monster tokens, so they're going to be gaining the Sword of Atlantis. Hyboria has a total of 4 women, and they're going to be gaining the Heart of Tammuz. The Cobra Crown is going to go to Stygia. I have a total of 4 treasure tokens. That's more than anyone else, so we'll be gaining the Cobra Crown. The Conan bonus is going to go to the faction with the lowest amount of Empire points and fewest adventure tokens, and that is going to be Turin. So we'll give them the Conan bonus card. Next, we're going to create the next adventure deck for the second age. So we've drawn 4 cards from the adventure pile. We'll place those in the adventure deck area and turn over the first card, and that is going to be, or the current adventure. That is a strength of 4, so we'll be placing 4 tiles out in the adventure track. So we've placed those tiles out on the adventure track, and now what each of the teams is looking at now is what grouping that they're strong in and which they're weak in. Now, there's a couple of women tokens out there, a total of 4, and that would be equal to the number of women tokens currently owned by Hyboria. So you can see how Hyboria might want to maintain that advantage, while the other teams might want to try to challenge them for the control of that. So this is kind of the strategy involved in the game. It's very deep. And then lastly, all of the teams are going to refresh their play on the table cards. The automatic kingdoms will refresh those cards at no cost in gold, obviously. And that was the completion of the end of the age sequence. Taking a look at our Conan track, we find out that he is 1 step away from advancing to Conan the Mercenary. Now, during the playthrough, we had several successful plays of the story cards, and that greatly advanced Conan towards his next development. After the first age, we've got Aquilonia and Hyboria with 5 Empire points, and coming in at second is Stygia and Turin with each with 3. And so this should provide you with an idea of how these solitaire rules work, and I have to say they work very well. The rules operate the non-player kingdoms very well. It plays out accurately, and I think the designer of those solo rules has done a good job in producing good results for a solitaire player. Now, one thing I can say is, regardless if you're using the solitaire rules or you're playing with the rules as written against other opponents, this game takes a long time. I must have spent probably an hour and a half to complete that remainder of the adventure deck to get us to this conclusion of the first age. So it takes a long time. You've got to be willing to invest the time in it, but I can tell you that it's very rewarding, and the game there's a lot of strategy in it, much more than probably what I'm able to demonstrate in this knockoff video. As for the expansion, I would have to say that that is definitely a requirement. Without the Adventures in Hyboria expansion, the Conan individual doesn't really have as much impact on the game as he does with these the rules in the expansion. The Conan player is much more involved in the gameplay with the expansion, and I really enjoy the story cards where the non-Conan players are attempting to influence him, gaining adventure tokens and possibly gaining possession of Conan, because that forces, if the story card is successfully played, it forces a bid for Conan immediately. So all in all, I enjoy the game very much, but you have to have the time to invest into playing this. It's a long game, I can tell you that. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Age of Conan, the strategy board game, including the Adventures in Hyboria expansion and this wonderful solitaire rule set that was created by a BGG user. It's very, very good. So that's going to bring this video to a close. I hope you enjoyed this preview of the solitaire system with the expansion and the base game. This is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club, signing off and wishing everyone happy gaming and a pleasant evening. Good night.